Hi, everyone. I'm Steve. I'm here with Dr. Nario. Thanks for being here, Doctor.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me again. Always a pleasure.
All right, so we're going to talk about a protein, amino acid chain, that has to do with longevity. Before we get into that, let me just say you can check out Biointegrative Health Center, which is where Dr. Nario is. You can check them out online. It's Biointegrative Health Center, and you can see all the different things that they treat and all the different treatments that they do. So, fun stuff. All right. Um, we were talking a little bit about this before we turned on the recording. So, tell me about what this longevity protein is. Now, our body produces it. So, I'm assuming that it makes it from amino acids. But tell us a little bit about what it is first.
Right. Well, Steve, we always like longevity, anti-aging. When we hear the word, we always want to affiliate with that, right? With this one, it's called Clotho, Klotho. And it's, I guess, nicknamed the longevity protein, as they call it. And it's a protein that plays a significant role in aging and even physiological processes in our bodies. It's a nice. I was curious about the history, and I found out that Clotho was named after the Greek mythology god of fate, who spins the thread of life, and it was actually so he extends the life compared to a thread that's being made, and it was this actually discovered on 1997, and it was found in mice in relation to genes that are associated to the extension of lifespan, and it's primarily naturally made in our bodies, such as in the kidneys. Number one, that's the main factory right there. The brain, and also the endocrine or the hormone tissues that we have, and that's why this is something that's pretty important because, of course, as we age, this protein lowers down in production, and we need to maintain this as much as we can as we get older.
Okay, so we were talking before this about lifestyle changes, things that we can do. So, what are some of the things that we can do to help stimulate this protein in our bodies? I mean, things that we can eat, exercise, all of the above. So, get into that a little bit for us.
Right. When we know, Steve, when we know that it's a natural protein that we have, it's actually something that we always relate to as maintaining the body functional as much as we can. And there are so many other factors also, like genetics, chronic conditions. But just to give our viewers how to increase this clotho in our system naturally, so let's do it with first the most important one, exercise. Always, nothing really is, I guess, detrimental unless you over exercise with exercise. And this actually stimulates the production and all of these specific organs where I mentioned that clotho is present. Diet. So the diet, this is something specific now. I'm not going to be talking about paleo or keto. It's actually a low phosphate diet, meaning dietary phosphates are always found usually in like meats, sodas, certain dairy products, and even processed food. These are the things that we're particular about because I always correlate this to the source, which is the majority of it's where it's coming from, is the kidney. So kidneys are having a hard time processing phosphates. You have to always remember that. And then diet rich in antioxidants. This will be your fruits, vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids. And also this ability of the antioxidants to lower oxidative stress. And of course, a good example for you is chronic stress. Reducing stress in our life also showed that it can increase the levels of clotho in our system. And also, of course, supplements later on. But I definitely just want to start with the natural ways on how we can start doing this naturally without any cost from our pockets.
Okay, so we've got exercise and getting phosphates. I think you said
Low
phosphates.
phosphates.
Getting those out of the
Hmm.
diet.
That's right.
Okay, and those are even in things like vegetables, right?
Right.
They're
Mhm.
like everywhere.
Well, we're particular more about the higher artificial phosphates and the unnecessary phosphates that we get from maybe a good way to label that is through the SAD diet, the standard American diet, right?
You said meats. I'm assuming those are processed meats.
That's right.
Yeah, not chicken.
Well, of course, it comes into the theory, but they get less and less as, of course, when you do grass fed, when you do all the organic sources, they have less phosphates than the processed ones.
Okay, so you mentioned supplements. Is
hmm
that something you want to get into now, or is there something else you wanted to tell us before you get into that
Oh, we can go that
supplementation?
far. Yeah, so supplements really number one on the list, vitamin D. We always, I think, out of like 10 patients that I would give you, I would find vitamin D low in almost like 60-70% of that 10. And this is something that, especially now, winter is coming. This is where vitamin D studies have shown vitamin D that are high expresses higher clotho production in our systems. That's why this is
Hmm.
number one on the list. If you're focused on clotho, vitamin D level should be optimal. And we always want this to be around 60 to 160 to 80. Don't be satisfied with the 30s as what your doctor would tell you, regular doctor would tell you. And then other supplements also that would be related to that would be omega-3 fatty acids. And this would be, of course, fish oil, algal oil. And we all know that omega-3s has this ability to lower down inflammation and also lower down oxidative stress other than increasing clotho levels. Other ones would be resveratrol. These are found in red wine and also grapes. This also has a great function as an antioxidant, but also clotho production. Another one, quercetin. This is a bioflavonoid from plants. This is always related to treating allergies and histamine reactions, but also a potent clotho promoter. Another one is astaxanthin. This is also another plant-based antioxidant, which actually helps also not clotho, but also mitochondrial function. And these are really like the top supplements that you want to bank on. And one thing would be NAD precursors. So this is NMN and R. And this one also, like vitamin D, I would put this at that same level. If you have a good amount of NAD in your system, this equates to higher clotho levels.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned vitamin D first. Is that because it has something to do with maybe hormones, or is that how maybe the dots would be connected there? Or?
Well, vitamin D is related to actually when you talk about not just hormones, but it's a almost vitamin D is a precursor for anything. For example, brain function, heart function, lung function. But when this situation, we're talking about probably more of kidney function. You have to remember the vitamin D is activated in the kidneys. If the kidneys are damaged, then you have a lower vitamin D. And as I mentioned to you, the kidneys are kind of the factory of clotho. It also is an indirect maybe method to see that, hey, if I have bad kidneys, would I also have less clotho? So that's kind of like an indirect way of seeing it that way. Because you don't have, right now, we don't have a clotho blood test. Maybe that's a better way to state it. But we do have a vitamin D blood test. So that's why I use your vitamin D levels to probably determine your clotho indirectly.
Okay, so that's just it's related.
hmm
A vitamin D level of 80 on your blood work is means that you're probably okay with this protein.
Right, but it's in the works. There's a lot of research, Steve, on how they're now determining clotho, and of course, they're trying to make it in research. How can people take it? How as clotho itself, so that we can actually increase it directly.
Yeah, that's interesting because obviously it's a protein chain. It's a chain of amino acids. That's what a protein is. And then you also mentioned mitochondria health is
hmm
also going to help stimulate or create this protein in our bodies. So you mentioned the precursors to NAD, which has
Right.
to do with the mitochondria. That's really interesting too, because that seems like almost a whole nother angle at this.
That's right. Oh, here's another surprising one, Steve. It's not only the supplements that raises it up, even your prescription medicines. prescription medicines such as statins. So when we're always bad mouthing statins, right? But studies
Yeah.
had shown cholesterol lowering agents had actually increased the levels of clotho in specific study patients. And also another one would be blood pressure medicines. The one specifically is angiotensin receptor blockers. So you would hear this as the like losartan or telmisartans. Same. It also had this effect in clotho levels, and that's why you would see here that it's a win for conventional and also integrative medicine in trying to raise these levels up.
Interesting. So there's a correlation to all the things that you mentioned to having this higher protein.
Hmm.
Um, and did you say there's no actual way to test for this protein specifically yet?
Right now, there's no direct testing of clotho. It's just that when they found on specific studies that the clotho actually was related to, for example, biomarkers of aging. So there are ways on how to test it, but it's in research stages. It's not something that we can offer in the clinics yet. And when they saw these, as I mentioned to you, it was studied in mice, right? When they saw that these levels are higher, these mice that actually had higher levels had actually longer lives. And also, when they saw this, that there is actually a potential for clotho to be treating chronic kidney problems, cardiovascular diseases, and even brain degeneration. And also, the one of the bigger correlated studies that are out there is the NAD connection of clotho, because they have noticed that clotho and NAD, as I told you, are actually kind of synergistically increasing together. So they're maximizing NAD now to actually increase clotho indirectly. And that's why vitamin D, again, going back to the importance of vitamin D and NAD in people who wants to increase this longevity protein.
Hmm. Wow. Fascinating. And there's a lot of dots there for me to connect. But is there any last thoughts that you would want to give us? Maybe something I didn't ask, Doctor?
Yeah, well, one of the things, if you take the question of what increases it, what lowers clotho down? So it sounds like pretty obvious, right? So yeah, just to kind of put it out there. Of course, as I mentioned to you, kidney is the one that's the more important for this. If you have bad kidneys, it's going to lower down. So that's why chronic kidney disease. Take care of those kidneys so that your clotho will be continuously be made. And of course, aging. Who can stop aging? But the thing here is, that's why we have anti-aging or aging gracefully with everything that we've been talking about in these webinars. And another emphasis would be a high phosphate diet. So when I mentioned to you about the high phosphate diet, we spoke about it a while ago in relation to the processed meats, all these bad foods that we're eating outside. Stick with the natural, stick with the good ones. And also, of course, if you have oxidative stress, inflammation, even psychological stress, and even, yes, depressed patients has lower levels of clotho.
Yeah, I mean, we know, even I know that NAD is we have less of it, we produce less of it, less in
Mhm.
our body as we age. So I can see
That's
how
right.
that connects the dots of anti-aging with this protein.
Yep.
So
And there's a lot of NAD talk. When you look at clotho, when you go to like watch videos and even look at articles about clotho, NAD really is the kind of number one. I mean, it really hangs together with vitamin D. That's why if you're taking nicotinamide riboside, nicotinamide mononucleotide, so these are the ones that are available in the market. And even niacin. Niacin is a precursor, or niacinamide, precursor of NAD. That also has actually shown to raise clotho levels. That's why you won't go wrong with any of these ends that I just mentioned.
right, and I see how that connects the dots to it being anti-aging. All
Mhm.
right, so Dr. Nario is at Biointegrative Health Center in Reno, Nevada. Go check him out online. Thanks for being with us, Doctor.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me. As we all know, that knowledge is power. And thank you for letting me provide you with edge in longevity and health maintenance, which I call the biological edge or the bio edge.